Directed by Martin Scorsese, The Aviator accurately depicts obsessive-compulsive disorder. This biographical film tells the story of Howard Hughes, a famous filmmaker, aviation pioneer, and public figure from the 1920s to 1947 that had developed a severe case of OCD. Obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD, is a type of anxiety disorder involving the repeated occurrence of obsessions and/or compulsions. The movie begins with Hughes as a child being carefully washed by his mother. Using soap from a tin can that's later used by Howard himself as an adult, she emphasizes the danger of germs and diseases and tells him he's not safe. Because of his mother's OCD tendencies, Hughes had grown up to be afraid of illnesses and germs. This shows how an early association with a psychological disorder can cause a predisposition to developing it. In addition, during the scene, young Howard spells out the word quarantine after his mother. Later in his life, spelling this word out again and again soothes him after stressful situations. After both Howard's parents died, he started his own film, Hell's Angels. Howard's actions of perfectionism towards his movie emphasized his need to be in control and precise. His need to be perfect and going beyond the standards in the industry seemed to grow as his life went on, which had ultimately strengthened his OCD symptoms. Howard's symptoms began very small with little interference and anxiety. Besides his perfectionist tendencies in filmmaking and designing airplanes, the first signs of OCD was when he had stared at his hands after resting them on a sofa in his screening room. This was just the beginning of his constant obsession of germs and a compulsion to stay clean. All of Howard's food had to be prepared a certain way. In one scene after Hughes received his food, Mr. Flint takes one pea out from the 2 rows of 6. Hughes then gets so upset and uncomfortable that he leaves the table without eating any of his food. This scene shows the anxiety Hughes experiences when things aren't the way he needs them to be due to his disorder. After stressful situations, Hughes is often seen going to the bathroom to wash his hands. In the first bathroom scene of the film, Hughes washes his hands with his own soap and won't give a towel to a crippled man due to his fear of germs. In the second bathroom scene, Hughes vigorously washes his hands so much that he cuts himself. He then gets blood on his shirt and soaks nearly the entire bottom of it in the sink. But after all of this, he's unable to get out of the bathroom because there are no more towels left to put a barrier between him and the germs, so he waits for someone to come in through the other side. These two scenes show how fast Howard's symptoms are progressing. Throughout the movie, there are a few scenes where Howard imagines people are spying on him. For example, he fires a man brooming on his airplane construction site because he was sure he was staring at him and because of how dirty he was.
They use damp rooms from now on. Respiratory diseases are expensive and I don't want a bunch of damn lawsuits. Okay,
At the end of the film, Howard imagines a group of men coming after him, which makes him have an anxiety attack and repeat the phrase, "the way of the future."
Howard, the way of the future. The way of the future.
Let's take a walk, Howard.
The way of the future. No,
Give me a hand here, will you, Glenn?
The way of the future. 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 The way of the future.
Due to Howard's OCD, he feels compelled to repeat certain phrases.
Howard, show me all the blueprints. 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 Show me all the blueprints.
It seems almost impossible for Howard not to say these phrases. It causes him a great deal of anxiety and takes up much of his time. At one point of the movie, Howard locks himself in a screening room because he believes everywhere else is infected with germs after the FBI searched his home for evidence of war profiteering. He doesn't shave or cut his hair or nails, wears no clothes, and pees in milk bottles that are arranged in multiple rows. When he's in need of food or milk, he gives specific directions and states that if there's any variation, then the whole process must restart.
And hold the bag out to me at a 45-degree angle so I may reach into the bag without touching the paper.
Aviator accurately depicts the symptoms and effects of those living with obsessive-compulsive disorder through the life of Howard Hughes. The film showed how small his symptoms had begun, which then grew so big that it had taken over his life. His mother's OCD tendencies had given him a predisposition to developing it, which then grew because of stressful environmental stimuli. Specifically to Hughes, he was constantly thinking about the danger of germs and was compelled to wash his hands, keep clean, and repeat certain phrases. Not properly completing these behaviors would give him anxiety and pain. Hughes's OCD had largely affected his well-being and social life. Due to his disorder, he drove others away, such as fiancée Kate Hepburn and Ava Gardner. His appearance from the beginning of the film compared to the end really shows the toll this disorder has on a person without proper treatment and attention. All in all, the movie is correct in its portrayal of obsessive-compulsive disorder within Howard Hughes.